Hi, everybody. This is Peter Gordon. I'm president of New York Financial Organizers, and I'm here to interview Marcus O'Toole, who's a partner at Kona Elder Law. Hi, Marcus. How you doing today?
I'm great, Peter. Thanks for having me on.
Sure, it's my pleasure. I love doing these because it's an opportunity to, you know, to really find out something about the other professionals I work with, what makes them tick, and the services they have to offer. So tell us a little bit about Kona Elder Law.
Sure. So we're an elder law firm located in Melville here on Long Island. We are a firm that really focuses on planning, and that's helping families and seniors, protect their assets, protect what's important to them, plan for their future, and that could be anything from estate planning, basic wills and powers of attorney and trusts, to asset protection and Medicaid so that, when a senior needs care, they're not going to lose their home. They want to protect their assets so that they have something to live in and leave to their heirs. We also help with guardianships, and after someone passes, we help administer their estate and trust. So it's the whole kind of suite of estate planning and elder law, all taken care of right here at Kona Elder Law.
Right, and it's so critical. It's always been critical, but now with what we call the silver tsunami and the aging population and the demographics changing, and being doing that planning is critical. And many people have a legacy, which is often maybe in their home or there's some money in the bank, and they need to plan to make sure that they can take care of themselves and hopefully pass some on to their family. Um, we were talking a little bit before about the three items, like the three documents that every person should have. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. There's three basic planning documents that anyone would need, whether they're 25 or 85. They're core documents that you start with, regardless of your age or financial situation, that really everybody needs. And those are a power of attorney, a healthcare proxy, and a last will and testament. And power of attorney, simply is a document that names an agent to be able to handle financial matters on your behalf. And that could be, at some point in the future, maybe you were sick or you couldn't handle things on your own and needed to have, a trusted person, typically a spouse or a child or a friend or something like that, as your agent to step in and make sure your bills are paid, your taxes are done, your insurance is taken care of, or even big things like selling a house or managing investments. All those things can be taken care of by an agent under a power of attorney. You can appoint alternates and things like that. But it's really important because there's no, default agent, right? If you don't have a power of attorney and, you were in an accident or you got sick or something like that, no one can automatically take care of these things for you. So it's really important to have that in writing in a document.
And
And
I love what you said about you know everyone should have one. Age is not critical. I'm partners with my son Jacob, and he's so proud of the fact that he's not 30 yet. He has those documents, and it's critical because you need to protect yourself and be able to have somebody of your choice to make those decisions for you in case something happens.
right, and I think the pandemic has demonstrated many things, including that unexpected things can happen regardless of your age. Somebody can get sick or tragically pass away, and power of attorney is really if when someone is alive but can't handle these things, and it's really important to be able to step in. I mean, I remember in the midst of the pandemic, people would be scrambling around, especially during those first few months where things were closed. You know, oh, mom can't go to the bank, right? She
Right.
can't leave. We're afraid. No, I'm not on her account. What do I do? Well, if you have a power of attorney, you can send it into the bank. We were FedExing it to the bankers when they were at their house or something like that, so they could see it and they'd add someone to the account, because they couldn't go in person, and then the child could go in or transact on their behalf,
right,
especially if the parent wasn't comfortable doing online banking and things themselves. Having that child or whomever already on the power of attorney was so important, so that if there was a situation, I mean, their parent wasn't incapacitated, but they couldn't take care of it because of circumstances outside of their control.
right, right. And we just lived through 2 years of that, and we don't know what the future holds.
Right, right, and that's really important. And uh, that on the financial side is one thing, and then the healthcare proxy on the other, as far as someone to make medical decisions if you couldn't make them for yourself. That became an issue during the pandemic. Obviously, if you're sick, if you're incapacitated, someone to make those decisions. Do we continue treatment? Do we stop treatment? And all that, having that healthcare proxy in place is really important, so that, as you said before, you get to choose who your
Right.
decision maker is, right? Especially, in the healthcare proxy, if you don't have one, there are some defaults in New York about, certain people. But you don't want to leave it up to the default. You want to pick who your decision maker is. All right. You have the document in place, then you have that decision maker. And just so I don't forget, we were talking about the three documents. Last will and testament is your wishes as far as inheritance, and we can talk about more in detail. But power of attorney, healthcare proxy is decision makers while you're alive, and then the will talks about inheritance after you pass away.
But can you just talk about the a healthcare proxy versus a living will?
Sure, sure. So a healthcare proxy is the document that names your healthcare agent. I appoint my spouse, my son, my cousin, my nephew, my best friend, whoever it may be, as your healthcare agent. You can also have alternates. It has to be one at a time, but you can have alternates. You can have my spouse, then my son, then my daughter, then or whatever. A living will is separate. It is your end of life decision wishes, right? It's also different than a last will. So last will is
Right,
inheritance. Living will is your wishes as far as end of life treatment, where you say, if I couldn't make my own decisions, my proxy appoints the person, but here are my wishes. If it was a terminal condition and I'm not expected to recover, I'm going to pass away shortly, you know, I don't want heroic measures and machines and to be resuscitated and what have you, and more focus on comfort care, palliative care, things like that. Or some people want the alternative. I want all measures taken to keep me alive as long as possible. But most people would prefer the first one. And it's important to have those wishes written down. Right. It's also important to tell your family members what you would want, but the living will is your written evidence in case there's ever any dispute in the family. I mean,
right,
older folks will especially remember poor, Terry Schiavo all those years ago. She was all over the news where family and courts, everybody was fighting about what she would want and withdrawing treatment and what have you. Living will are a document that tries to have your wishes written down in legal documents so they can't be disputed.
and again, it's an important thing to have at a young age. If you're in a car accident, or and something happens and you're unconscious, and your decisions that you want to do
Right.
are made for
Right.
you. So it's really critical.
Right.
Yeah, no, so that's great. And there can be confusion um, with those documents. So that's a great explanation. Um, I'm curious, what is it that brings people to you? How do they make the decision to say, okay, I'm gonna, and not necessarily your firm, because I'm sure it's a great firm with a great reputation, but why would one person decide to get this um, planning done as opposed to someone else?
Well, I think that most people come, with the idea, maybe they've seen an article or they talk to a friend or they watch something like this and they're like realizing there's a lot I don't have in place. Or a family member passed away and they saw, or got sick and they saw that person didn't have a plan and saw what kind of a mess it turned into.
Right, right,
And they're like, okay, wow, my aunt so and so got sick and she lost her house because they didn't have a trust. Or my grandfather passed away and they fought in court about the estate because he didn't have a will. And they'll have things like that will come up and say, all right, what do I do? And they'll say, all right, I need to find a lawyer to put my affairs in order. And they'll either find us on the internet, or again, their neighbor or best friend will say, I went to Kona, they got all my stuff in order. They help my mom, they help my grandma, or they go to they talk to other professionals they know. Oh, I know Peter from NIFO, and he said, and we were talking, and he said, do you have your plan in order? And they said, if not, talk to this guy. Or they talk to their accountant or their investment advisor, whomever. And they said, all right, these are the folks to go to. This is what they do. Get your affairs in order, or get mom or dad's affairs in order, or your aunt or whatever, so that those crises don't happen to them in the future.
Right. And that's so true. And it really does hinge on someone's experience with others, and seeing how other people, so, did well or had troubles. And the other thing you mentioned just now is, there's a team of people, and we're big proponents on that. Where we help people with their daily financial issues, and then there are other people, they're geriatric care managers that we work a lot with, because they deal with the medical side, and obviously there's the attorney that deals with the end of life and estate issues, and as in your case, asset protection. So there are all these different pieces that come together to support somebody, and the earlier you can set that up, the better. It's never too early.
Right. I mean, life is complicated these days, right? It's not like it was in the old days where you could do a lot of, maybe your tax return was half a page, and you had your pension, and you didn't have to worry about, oh, my 401k, is it being managed properly? Or, I have 30 bills to pay. I have, 20 different types of Medicare to choose from. Life is complicated these days. And when you're getting older, look, you've worked your whole life. You've built up some savings, maybe got a house, maybe you have this, you want to enjoy your retirement and not have to worry about all these different things. So having a team in place to take care of, so all right, this person taking care of that, this care and that, and you have your group of advisors working together, making sure you're on the same page. Again, whether you got a million or maybe you got 20 million, and you want to make sure that everything is just tied up, and making sure that it's your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, and everything is good. You want to rely on that team of advisors, so that your affairs are being handled properly.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, you mentioned, whether you have a million or 20 million. So what brought to mind was the fact that, as people age, and they want to age in place, there might be issues with home health care that they have to deal with, where they're going to where they're going to live. And why don't you address that, and how Kona Law can help people with that type of planning?
Right. I mean, I think a lot of seniors, or people that are just thinking about, I'm 65. Where am I going to be in 15 years? And I mean, a lot of people want to say, all right, I'd like to stay at home as long as possible. Right. And these days, the way you do that, if you needed care, you have a home care aide. Maybe they come by 4 hours a day. Maybe you need a live-in. Maybe you have that kind of need. And they come to us and say, that seems like a lot of money. Am I going to have to lose all my savings if I need an aid for the next 10 years? And I tell people, well, no, we can help you protect your assets. And that's kind of the name of the game for people 65 and up, especially, is the cost of care is so high these days. What can I do to protect myself so I can stay in my home, keep my home, and have the care I need? And it's having a proper asset protection plan in place. And everybody's situation is different, but you know for your average middle class senior, whether they're single or married, and they got maybe they got a home, they got some savings, is through a trust. They put their house in the trust, maybe some of their funds, an irrevocable trust, to protect their assets, so that when the time comes and they need that care, you'll have set it up well in advance of any look back periods, and you'd be able to get the care you need and not have to Nobody's going to put a lien on your house or anything like that.
That was a great explanation. That was really great. And again, with the demographics shifting and the increase in costs, it's really critical to do that. And what about if you have somebody come in and they're pretty much alone? They have no family who are nearby, or they were never married. They have no children, yet they need to have a power of attorney. How do you handle that?
Well, first, I tell them to be very careful, right, about who they're selecting. I tell the story of, this is a true story, where there was a woman in New York City who, didn't have anybody, and she went to some, got a power of attorney. And it's like, oh, you know what? The doorman, he's nice. I see him every day, picks up my packages, he looks out for things. I'm sure he'll be able to take care of that stuff. He seems like a trustworthy guy. Named him as power of attorney. He went and emptied her bank accounts and then, left the state, left the country, something like that, right? The power of attorney is, you're naming someone with a lot of authority. They have a lot of power because they need to, right? If you were sick and couldn't handle these things for yourself, you need to have the ability. What if they needed to move an account or change investments or pay for things? You need to make sure they have that authority. So it has to be someone that's trustworthy. And if you, in your personal life, for whatever reason, don't have family or friends that either one, you're not, maybe they are not capable of handling finances for you, or you're just not comfortable that they would be trustworthy, and that's where you look toward professionals, right? Like a company like NIFO would have professionals that do this for a living, and they could step in and manage those things if you needed them to do that for you. And Peter, you can talk more about the details about how all that works, but by relying on a professional that have been around for a while, they've got insurance, they've got all these protections in place. You're not just picking a random person, you're picking an established company to help you with this.
Right, and the key there for us, and we do act as fiduciary, power of attorney, executor, trustee. We're brought in by a trusted professional. We're often, more often than not, it would be through an attorney, and that's critical. It's like you said. You ask the doorman, you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe he's on the up and up, but one of the problems in New York State, to be a power of attorney, you just have to have a heartbeat. There's no certification. California, very deep certification needed. And at NIFO, we're actually getting certification from another organization. It's not required in New York, but it's important for us to have our clients feel more comfortable with that.
Right. Right. And look, even in situations, say you have a trust, maybe you have a child who you trust, and you're not worried that they're going to go, taking the money or anything like that, but they might have a little bit difficult, might feel overwhelmed by it, or they have their own life, or they have their own, busy things and kids to worry about, is that your agent can bring in a company like NIFO to help with the bills, even if you
Exactly,
have a child as an
exactly.
agent. They can step in and help so that the child doesn't feel overwhelmed trying to do not only their own finances, but yours, but they'll still be involved. It's not like, if you have a child that you love them and you trust them, but maybe just doesn't have the capability or the time to do it, then you could bring in, professionals to help with even things like paying bills.
Yeah, no, I have a situation like that with a client that it's a new client that it's a friend who's helping this friend. The client himself lives in Brooklyn and the friend lives in Philadelphia, and he's done an amazing job of handling this person's care, but it's from a distance. And his friend wants him to be the power of attorney, but this fellow in Philadelphia doesn't want that responsibility anymore. So he's working with us and a care manager and other professionals, and he's just going to manage them and not have to do all the work. So that's exactly it. And there are so many different scenarios out there, and
Some
you have
people
to
should
figure
just
out.
know that there are, professionals out there that can help with these things. And when you're putting a plan together, ask those questions, right? If you don't, ask, if you're coming in to see me about planning, ask like, what if, I want to appoint my best friend in Philadelphia, but what if they're overwhelmed? What do they do? Or they can't travel here? And I would tell them, well, you can get a local professional to assist them, right? There's a financial, helpers like NIFO, and then for care managing, there's geriatric care managers that can help find the agency, there are companies out there that help you find housing and things like that. You can have that trusted person as your agent, even if they're not local, but maybe they need to rely on some local professionals to help with some of the day-to-day on the ground type of thing.
Right. It all comes back to the team approach, different people
Right.
helping out. I'm curious, we had talked before and you said that you do a lot of webinars and you get business from online. Talk to that. What how can people see your webinars and get more information about your services and educate themselves before they come to see you?
Sure. So, I mean, our firm puts on webinars, several times a month on all sorts of different topics, on estate planning, on asset protection, on Medicaid, on how to be an executor or what is probate, all those kind of,
Right.
basic topics. Because a lot of what we do, people don't know what they need or don't know because that's the only time they've ever planned, or they had a relative passed away, or their parent passed away. Well, they never been an executor before. What do they do? And so we try to educate people so they realize here are the things you can do. Here are the things you need to know how to figure out. And here's the things you come to an attorney or other professionals to help you with. So, if they wanted to reach out to us, there's an email address for the firm. Generally, it's elder at conalaw.com, CONALAW.com. And you can ask to be, add to our email list. We also, our website, conaelderlaw.com or conalaw.com, CONALAW.com, where you can see we have all sorts of blogs and resources and things and videos you can learn that way. And you can also reach out to us for a guidebook, to register for webinars. And there's a phone number, 631-390-5000, that you can call us if you wanted to schedule a free consultation or anything like that. And then really, everybody's situation is different, but I think educating yourself can be very helpful. And there's plenty of resources on our website, and we do webinars on a regular basis.
Yeah. So, and we're going to post this video on our blog and in YouTube channels. It's going to go all over, and there'll be that information within it. So, I just want to thank you. This is great. You're obviously very knowledgeable, but I love your enthusiasm. And we also talked before about why you do what you do, and it's because you really love helping people. And I feel that very much that same way. I feel lucky to have that in my life.
It feels very rewarding. I help people with estate planning regardless of their age or situation, but we're elder law attorneys, so we have a special focus on seniors. And it just really, I get a good feeling every time I help a senior, feel at ease that they have their affairs in order, that they have a plan in place, and that they've really protected all that they've spent their life building up, and that they have a plan in place. So it's a really good feeling each time, and I love doing what I do, and I love working with our clients and other professionals who do the same thing.
Yeah, no, the people who do this work, the work with seniors are they're fun. They want to help, and it's nice to be around other people who want to help. So anyway, thank you so much, Marcus. This was great. I really appreciate it. And everybody out there, come by and to our video channel, and you'll get a lot more of their information. Take care, and I'll see you at my next interview.